Welcome to In the Spotlight. I'm Shirley Lin, and today my guest is someone I've been dying to meet for a long time. Her name is Anna Lee, and she's a food stylist in Hollywood, by the way. She actually came out with a book, and this was like a year and a half ago. So this is the book, 五星级厨余. But first of all, I need to ask Anna, what is this book's name in English? But let's meet Anna first. Hi, Anna.
Hi, everyone.
So, do you have an English name to this book, by the way?
I have a lot of candidates. The best one I could think of is Star Trash.
Star Trash, that's it. I remember I saw that somewhere. Okay.
I thought about it a lot because it could be like a five-star leftover but I think Star Trash is a good name for it.
I was thinking of like 5-star kitchen waste.
Something like that, yeah.
That's a direct translation, but anyway. Well, first of all, Anna studied filmmaking.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. And the thing is that she, after graduating, she was trying to figure out what to do with her life. Then she realized she really loves movies, and that's why she studied filmmaking. But then she looked over at bookshelves and realized that she doesn't have novels, she doesn't have magazines or textbooks or anything like that, but all recipe books. And then she said, wow, if there could be a combination, film and recipe and food, what would that be? So now I know the food stylist is not a common thing in Taiwan.
No, not at all. Not even in the rest of the world. It's a very niche profession.
In the States, in Hollywood.
Yeah, most people, I still have to explain when I'm in the States what is food styling and what do I do. So
really?
it is not common all over.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, you're saying that in Taiwan, resources are very limited, and so a lot of times one person on a camera crew or a film crew has to play many different roles, wear many different hats. So there's no such thing as a food stylist. It's the job of whoever. But in the States, in Hollywood, it's a very particular niche, a job for food stylists. You want to explain what is food stylist for those who really don't know?
So food styling has two main completely different area. One is the movie. Basically movie, TV show, anything with a script, drama. Those kind of food stylists is really my main expertise. Is you dissect the script and based on the era of the story or the culture, the background and what's happening inside of the story, the food stylist will handle anything that falls under the food props. That's more like my main lane, but then there's a whole different set of food styling is in the commercial world. For example, if a big food company or restaurant, they want to photograph their menus, sell their products, and they need a food stylist to make their product appetizing to the customer. That is more commercial. What I'm doing is more, I guess, artistic.
Right. Now, a lot of times the food that you make is very appetizing and looks really delicious in front of a camera and a magazine or whatever in books. But actually it's probably not edible once the shooting is done, right?
Well, after the shooting is done, a lot of the time it is not, but it is absolutely 100% edible during the filming, because there are always actors involved that they might interact or eat. There is a misconception that food stylists use crazy tricks, spray like hairspray and motor oil on food. But that is more of an old school commercial food styling. Okay. When it comes to film, TV, anything involves real actors, everything has to be edible and sometimes even have to taste good.
And I wanted to interview you then, but then I was in a hospital. By the time I got out, you were already flown back to Hollywood, right? And you said, hey, we can always do the interview online, but there's a reason why I was hesitant about doing it online, is because I really want to meet you in person.
Oh, that's
And
sweet.
that was before I read the book. And after I read the book, I was like, I really want to meet you. And then I learned that you were coming home. Like, I guess you've been coming home like every year almost, if it weren't for COVID.
Yeah, every year and a half, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, I said, great, Anna's back again. You know, I got in touch with you, and I'm so glad that we got finally meeting each other. And you're gonna autograph my book later. But the thing is that what I learned about you from the internet was how you were on the set helping out with the movie The Life of Pi, directed by Ang Lee. And then you were actually just doing all sorts of things like translating and arranging lunch for all the foreign crew and everything. And you were saying, like, that you did not want to go for like McDonald's and all that kind of stuff. You wanted to show those foreigners real Taiwanese food.
Correct.
So you did that, and they were just amazed and loved your food, and Ang Lee also loved your food. So he, correct me if I'm wrong, he encouraged you to pursue your dream in Hollywood. Did he?
He did. So does everyone on Life of Pi. Basically, at the time, I really want to pursue food styling. So when I was on Life of Pi, I was telling everyone, like, that's my dream. I'm here to assist whatever you need, but that's really my goal. And everyone, including Ang, was telling me LA would be the place to be. Ang personally preferred New York, but he's an East Coast man.
Right.
But it's basically the same suggestion, like you should go to America, and that's where most likely you'll be able to succeed. So yeah, after the show wrapped, pretty much within a month, I packed my bag and just left.
That's what you wrote in the book. Yeah, just within a month. You're I don't know, you're a proactive person.
I think at the time I was thinking there were a lot of really precious connection I built, because Life of Pi, we shoot a total of 9 months in Taichung. So they have to house us, and it's almost like a long summer camp. We live together, work together, and we travel together. So I feel like those are very precious connections that I did not want to lose. Because after any show, any movies, people like grow apart, and then they went on to do their own thing. So in my head, I was thinking, I have to do this right now. That's why I did it in a month.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And actually, not only that, you're really into food too. You love food, and you love cooking. Right. And I think that's a big plus. Okay, so one other thing I learned was apparently, this was probably in LA, and you were filming a movie, and then the director says there was a scene that you have to that there needs to be a lentil soup, right? And the director was saying like, oh, just get canned lentil soup, but you were going like, no way. You made chicken broth, and I don't know, you just put all kinds of ingredients, and it was so scrumptious that the female character, she was supposed to she was supposed to act sick in the movie and just took a little sip. But when, after the scene was done, she asked you for a bowl after another bowl because it was so good. Right. Now, it seems like this is your particular principle, is that you want to make sure your food is delicious. I mean, I don't know, is this the case for all food stylists? Because I think some food stylists probably don't care much as long as it's presentable.
Mr. Church could make or bake anything you wanted. The smells of cooking were like my alarm clock. Complaining wasn't easy to stop. Enjoying the food was a breeze.
Well, it's prop food. You don't really eat the prop food because, sometimes it's not edible. The only time I've eaten prop food in the film is when, it was part of the scene that you had to be eating it. But if the stuff that I was doing, they were trying to make it look a certain way. So usually when they're trying to make it look a certain way, it's not really edible. So it looks great, but you don't want to taste it.
Here, this is Mr. Church's recipe.
Do you like to cook?
Oh, I'm a terrible cook. I can make like breakfast stuff and hot dogs. And I can make a really good pot of chili.
No, is this the case for all food stylists? Because I think some food stylists probably don't care much as long as it's presentable.
Depends on the situation. If the budget allows, I always try to make it as good as possible, and or time. But not always the case. Sometimes you do have to save money and be cheap about it.
Yeah.
So I kind of have to gauge. So that's also something about food styling is you have to be able to work with different productions. So I myself might want everything to be delicious and made from scratch, but if that means going over the budget, people might not want to hire you again.
Yeah.
So it all depends, case by case. But that one, I had a good setup. The whole movie was about Eddie Murphy playing a personal chef. So they already know this movie has heavy food scenes almost every other day. So they did rented a mobile kitchen for me. A lot of the time I don't have a proper kitchen set up, so everything kind of have to be as simple as possible or as cheap as possible, as fast as possible. But that particular show, I did have an actual nice kitchen, so I was able to do more. And that actually paid off because my boss at the time, he told me he was very impressed because most actresses, they watch their figures, and especially when they have to eat the same thing over and over again for hours, they tend to just like take a little sip, or even they will spit into a spit bucket. That's what we always have on set for them. But that particular day, it's very satisfying. Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool. I hear that, yeah, from the book, you know, you actually, you know what? Before I go on with more questions about the book, why the book? Why Star Trash? Why? You know, with a name like that, people are wondering what's inside, what's it about.
Yeah, actually, a lot of people thought it was a cookbook to teach people how to use up their leftover food at home.
Well, don't get Anna wrong. There are a few recipes in there. That's one of a kind.
But this book is essentially, when I first moved to America, I have encountered a lot of culture shock, things that I never experienced here. So I started writing little notes and drafting down interesting culture shock related things that I saw. And then as I was working longer, I started to write more culture shock related, but it's no longer America versus Taiwan. It became like the normal, the regular folks versus like the really rich, the 1% world. So that's like another layer of culture shocking. Yeah. And then I just continue to keep writing all those incidents that I find interesting. And funny enough, when I visit home, the longer I live in America, when I visited home, I found another reverse culture shock coming back. So the notes, the stories just keep on adding, and I find them all have the same sort of theme. It's like different shocking moment as I grew and as more world that I'm involved. But it's not until I wrote this one story just on my personal.
Yeah, there's a lot of your personal kind of feelings and thoughts sharing. Yeah,
I wrote this one story that's in the book. It's the story about the housekeeper of my private chef client, Marina. She told me about this horrifying story of she trying to kill a couple chicken.
Oh yeah. I remember that part.
So she actually got a couple chickens as a gift from like a county fair.
Live chicken.
Yeah, live little chicken. But her neighbors thought it's like too noisy or smell, so they kind of want her to get rid of it. Otherwise, they will fine her. The police department were gonna fine her for keeping farm animal in a residential area. So Latina, very hardworking. She doesn't want to waste any food, and so she decided the best case is to kill the chicken and feed her family with it. Yeah. It was a very horrifying process. She was struggling. She didn't know anything about killing a chicken. So,
were you there?
No.
Oh,
it was all just stories when we were working together. Yeah. So eventually, like after almost a horror film type of struggle, she killed the chicken, cooked the chicken, and went to work and she realized like none of her family enjoyed that chicken that night because she found out her husband was actually cheating on her. So he took the kids to the lady's house and they ate there. So the whole story was kind of like a sad, very struggling story, but it has a very positive ending. She left the husband and she felt like, because being a religious Catholic woman, she felt like getting a divorce. It's like
It's unheard of.
really bad thing, but she was telling me she got over this very dark period of a time. She was doing so much better. So first of it was that story itself. It's like I got a lot of feedback from my friends. They were like, it's such a inspiring story, but put in a very captivating way. So it's not like you're telling people this serious moral lesson. You filled it with a lot of very exciting incident, end up giving a very strong message. So that story is probably the first time I realized like, I can maybe write more about those type of stories.
Yeah.
After that one story, I started to write more, very similar story. Everything that I hear and see with Marina from work, everything has a little positive end note, but with interesting, humorous, even sarcastic tone. That's kind of like my way of humor. So after a few years, Marina actually passed away because she has some heart condition. It was at that moment I feel like I really need to write more because people deal with grief differently. Like some people they just kind of, swallow. And I feel like I always want to do something to honor this person. So I started writing more and more. And very soon, pandemic happened. All of a sudden, Hollywood was just completely shut down. We didn't have any work for 6 months. And I felt like that was another kind of hardship that I always feel like I could come out in a positive way. A lot of my friends actually became alcoholic during pandemic, but I just kind of sit home, write about all those stories. I feel like you have to find something positive when you encounter something negative.
At least you had something to do.
Yeah, and so with Marina passing plus the pandemic, I pretty much just sit home. Sometimes I wrote 10 to 12 hours a day.
Wow.
I just couldn't stop. I feel like I have this obligation to Marina and to this whatever that's happening in this world that I don't know the future because of the pandemic. Book took me about 10 years to jot down those little funny incidents.
Well, that's about how long you've been in Hollywood.
Yeah. But the actual writing, it was probably 6 weeks.
No.
6 weeks time.
And during the pandemic, that's when you had a lot of time.
I did have a lot of time. And because I don't consider myself a writer or an author, so I think a lot of writers, they first pitch an idea and maybe a publishing house will pick up, and then that's when they start writing the rest of the book. But I didn't have that kind of confidence that people, because like nobody knows who I am. So I actually wrote the entire book until, and then I started to find publishing house. I kind of picked five of my favorite stories, and I sent it out to 4 publishing house in Taipei. One picked it up like instantly, and the rest is history.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, my Chinese is not that good, but this was an easy read. This is actually in Chinese. It's also English version. I was hoping for an English version, but
Well, my Chinese is not that good, so maybe
it's to my taste. I mean, this kind of Chinese is very easy read, and you're very open and frank about your feelings and thoughts. And in no way hurting anybody that you mentioned. I mean, I know that you said that if it's someone who was worth mentioning, you would give their full name. And we're talking about celebrities and movie directors and all that. But otherwise, just give them a letter from the alphabet. and say never to guess, like, thinking that this rhymes with their first name or whatever, because there's none of that and like no guessing. But it's just things like that you mentioned in the book that makes it really fun to read and just really enjoyable. And I didn't think that, actually for us, we learned a lot of things about Hollywood, about filmmaking, about food styling from your book. You think you didn't know much, but actually we're the ones who really start from zero. And so this really educated us a lot about food styling and the whole market and the background behind Hollywood and the people, especially the people, So it amazed me because a lot of times when I'm reading a book, I'm like putting myself in your shoes. And you know how sometimes you have to figure out like, well, who is allergic to what kind of food, who doesn't eat this, who doesn't eat that. And sometimes you're not told until, on the shoot. But then there are movie characters, celebrities who are nice. They say, oh, it's okay, I'll just not eat it. Like whoever, she said that she's actually diabetic or something, and she had to taste something like a sweet dessert. And she said, you were very apologetic, but then she was like really nice about it. It's okay, I'll just not eat it. No big deal. You don't have to like do it all over again. Talk about this one particular, I'm thinking of is the oysters, the raw oysters. Because a lot of times you actually, and I'm so excited about this, I'm so proud of this, is that you crack your brain thinking like, well, what am I going to use to make it look like raw oyster when you cannot use raw oyster because it's just going to be fresh by the time it's done.
Right.
So you actually use something that is, I want to use the word endemic to Taiwan.
Yeah, I am very, very proud of that invention as well.
You want to describe that?
It's there was a time I kept getting requests that the actor's supposed to eat oysters. I think because oyster is like a fancy
it signifies class, right?
Right, and so I kept getting the same request, but the request always is they're not supposed to eat raw oyster, or they're vegan, or the food safety concern.
Right.
So I had to turn down the first couple ones that I got the job, and that always gave me this very frustrating feeling that I couldn't accomplish the task. So I just kind of start figure things out. I first looking online, and some food stylists gave out a few clues. I remember this one woman said she would use flan, which is like a pudding. But I just couldn't quite picture it. I bought those pudding. It doesn't look anything like an oyster. So I thought, okay, I'm going to start from scratch. I don't want to go by other people's tips and tricks. I don't know, all of a sudden I thought about this tapioca ball that we have. It's essentially the same ingredients, the boba tea, the boba in the bottom of the boba tea. And I kind of just start playing with it, because after you mix the tapioca starch with water and then you cook it, it became kind of like a clay, like very pliable texture.
Stretchy, kind of.
Yeah, so so when it's half cooked, it's white and pliable, so you could kind of shape it into an oyster. But when it's fully cooked, it became translucent, so it looks even more like an actual oyster. And then I kind of just lace the tapioca with some sesame paste.
Yeah, because there's some
black sesame paste to kind of make it the intestines of the oysters. And all of a sudden, it just looks and feels, and it just works.
And it's even edible, right?
It is edible, and I'm very proud of it, not only because it's a very regional Taiwanese dessert, but it's also gluten-free and vegan, and it's completely safe to eat under like a room temperature long period of time, because there's no meat in there, there's no dairy in there. So it became kind of like the ultimate set fake oyster. And especially when it's sweet, you have to, when the actor has to eat it over and over again, they don't feel sick and they don't get tired of it. They actually find it quite enjoyable. So Yeah, that's. But funny thing is, after I cracked the code on the oyster, I have not gotten more jobs about, more requests about this oyster job.
Oh, well, wait and see. Maybe.
But it's the Murphy law.
Yeah, that is so cool. Well, I think the last thing is that maybe you can talk about just what Hollywood's like, having been there 10 years and with those people. Is it anything that everybody thought it to be? I mean, of course, there's all the glamour. Right. But actually, you're pretty open about some of the things behind that glamour, within some of these families.
Yeah, I guess because we're behind the scene people. So technically we see the glamour, but we're not part of that glamour. And Hollywood is glamorous, and they kind of, unlike the Taiwanese film production, they set you up pretty good. So there was always on-site catering, craft service that provide snacks. And
oh yeah, I see that in movies. That is amazing. Just a whole table full of snacks and everything in between shoots. Just go eat.
Right, that one it's good and bad at the same time. You gain a lot of weight working on set, and there's a lot of waiting downtime, so you have nothing to do but to eat. But also the safety protocol is more
pronounced.
Yeah, so here sometimes you hear about some crazy, like working 24 hours straight and some accident happen. That doesn't happen in Hollywood. Really? And I think Hollywood is just overall, I guess because they have more money. So they have this concept of if you want something, you have to pay for it. Maybe not so much in the Taiwanese film industry. They tend to just work their crew to a very unreasonable extent, but just like any other production or any operation project that involves working with human beings,
then it's all the same.
Yeah, there are definitely frustrating time where last minute changes. That's universal. Just because it's Hollywood doesn't mean they're more organized or people won't change their mind on things. So all of that is kind of still the same, especially the last minute request. That seemed to happen a lot more since the pandemic. People use the pandemic as an excuse, like, oh, we don't have enough time, we don't have enough people, manpower. And I think the biggest difference, they're willing to pay for their unreasonable requests, but doesn't mean there's not none that exist.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, let's talk about this part where you became private chef to some of the celebrities, in Hollywood and Bel Air and all that. But actually, those jobs help you during this pandemic when filming is like totally come to a complete stop. So, I mean, I think you're very lucky, to have all the recommendations. And I think with your personality, I think people would actually enjoy you, appreciate you as a private chef. I can see that. Yeah, what's that like?
Cool. Well, private chef actually helped me not just through pandemic, also at the beginning of my food styling career.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, right.
When things were very rocky and freelance wasn't stable. So yeah, private chef has always been my I did not set up to be a private chef, but that kind of has become my route in America. I think being a private chef to very famous people is just like being a private chef to anyone, because being a private chef, it's all about customizable service. It's not just about, like, if you're a famous chef in a restaurant, you can be yourself. And you could have this take it or leave it type of attitude. But being a personal chef, you have to be able to read your client's preferences, and you have to be able to adjust. So your ego has to be, smaller. I think that's the biggest difference between a chef versus a private chef. And I think I'm pretty good at reading people's preferences. And over the years, I've gotten better and better including my mom. I have tried to cook for years ago, and I made her this feast of all the things that I think is the best, my favorite dishes. She gave me like the worst possible
Score?
Yeah, she's just like too salty, too greasy, too unhealthy. And then I realized, no, it's not about what you like to eat. It's always about who you are serving.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, you know, there are, like I said, there are some recipes in there. They probably wouldn't be my, you know, liking, because I know you're very into a lot of spice, more on the salty side. You know what? I think that my husband is more, like, you're probably on the same level as my husband, because he's into spice and a lot of flavor, you know, rich flavors and everything. You're learning a lot in life, even from your mom, you know, from what you're professional in, going back home and then showing off your mom, you know, you're cooking, but then getting advice from her. I mean, it's all very real, the way you share your life, you know, in this book. This is really amazing. You know, it keeps you growing, I think. And you've got a good attitude, like you're willing to make changes, to learn new things. And even when people give you a hard time, you're like, no, okay, never mind. You know, kind of pat yourself on the shoulder and just keep on going. Right? Am I right about you?
Sure, your feelings get hurt sometimes along the way, but essentially those are all gonna help you be a better chef and maybe a better person.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I agree. You think you're gonna make Hollywood like your home, like forever? What's your future plan, and enjoy continuing to be a private chef, and you're going to continue with that, or there are more books in the coming, or I don't know. You can answer one at a time.
Well, so far it's looking that way. I did spend the last 10, 11 years in LA, build up my clientele, and Hollywood is the place for me, because I get to work with food that has no limit. Like, I could do a sci-fi movie today, and then an 18th century pirate show the next day. So, yeah, that I want to continue to do. I do want to keep on getting better at it. I want to kind of be more fluent in historic food studies, because I have encountered a lot of the movie that is not happening in today's time. So that part I could still get better. Regional cooking, especially this time in Taiwan, I did a road trip around the island. I have newfound appreciation when it comes to very regional cooking, or herbs, or even just like this one little town is only known for certain things, like rice in Chisang, or noodle in Yuli, or something like this very regional people proud of, and the best of that particular little space. I want to be more fluent in that, more educated in that, not just in Taiwan, but maybe around the world. Kind of just step aside from just the mainstream food trend. I want to know more about. So that will be something I want to work on in the coming years. Basically, it's just getting more knowledgeable in food of all culture and all era.
I know that this time you came home for about a month, I would say.
Right.
So you try to come home like once every year and a half. Right. And I thought, you know, following you on Instagram, I thought you were just eating this and eating, because you miss all this food from Taiwan. But actually you're learning stuff. You're trying to, you know, learn some new stuff to bring back with you, I realize. So every time. That is great. I mean, I think that's awesome what you're doing. How many celebrity families are you actually private chef to, by the way?
Right now, I don't cook for a lot of celebrities. I cook for a lot of celebrities when I'm working on set, in the movie set. But really, I just kept one, J.J. Abrams, as my main client, private chef client right now. JJ has been very, very easy to work with, and always very appreciative, especially when it comes to my schedules. Like, you just said I took a 1 month break.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do need to go on set and work as a food stylist.
Right.
And he has been nothing but supportive. So he's like the perfect client. So he's the only one that I'm still
I see.
currently cook for.
He's a great family with kids and wife, and they all seem to be very, very nice to you.
Yes.
So they're great people. So anyway, you did mention that much in the book. It was near the end because when you prepare food on the set, you don't just prepare one portion. You have to do like maybe even 40 or even 100.
It's a big deal.
When you shoot a film, you NG a lot of times and you have to start again and again. So you make sure you prepare a lot. Now, sometimes you were saying that some of the movie celebrities, movie stars, they're very professional, maybe 1 or 2 takes and it's done. But then you've got all these 38 portions of the same food left over. So what do you do? And it seems like you're doing something with all this leftover food, which helps sustainability here.
I'm doing a very small part based on my own space and abilities. I try to keep those on-set food as fresh as possible, keep them in the fridge if there is one. If there is none, unfortunately, I have to throw away a lot of food, but if I can, I have this like a whole separate bedroom at my house. It's to store those dry pantry items that I got from set. And if I could use it on another show, I would. But if I cannot, I will have to try to find
ways to use them up.
Yeah. And I will always freeze things that are like meat related or perishable stuff. So once a month, I work with this local, like a keep feeding homeless program. I will tell them how many portions of serving of food that I can provide this month, and they will come pick it up from me when the food is done, and they will distribute it. So that's something I try to do within my own power and ability, is to freeze as much stuff as possible and store as much food as possible, and then kind of just come up with dishes. Just kind of a mystery box, this January special of all the food that I collected throughout January, and kind of make it give it a new life by making a kind of like a family meal to give away.
That is so cool. And these people are so grateful to you.
I mean, I never met any of them because it was picked up and distributed for me. But it's something that I feel better not wasting as much food as possible.
So much more we can really talk about from your book and about your life and about you as a person. But what's some last word you want to give to young people who might want to pursue the same dream as you?
I don't know about food styling because I'm sure not a lot of people set that up as their goal, but just pursuing dreams in general, I think my advice is to do something towards that dream every day, even if it's a tiny little things, because a lot of the time we kind of get frustrated or scared. Because dream is called a dream for a reason. It's hard to reach. It's far away, and sometimes people get discouraged. They think if I don't nail it the first try, I might as well just give up. Or it's so hard. I don't know how to start, where to start. But I think as long as you have to set your expectation very low, you aim very low. People kept saying aim high, but I actually think you have to aim low on your daily homework. You just do a little bit every day. For example, before I became a food stylist, I set this very tiny goal for myself. If I don't feel like doing anything, if I don't feel productive today, I will force myself to at least watch some YouTube videos about this food that I don't know. So simple, so easy, but I felt like I did something towards my goal. Or I will compile a list of people I can email, and that will be my day's homework. And maybe another day is actually sending out those emails. So you kind of set very small steps for yourself, but you have to do it every day. Because I think chasing dream, it could be a muscle memory that people learn to do instead of just be so intimidated by the fact that you're not there yet. So that's the advice that I can give, is do very, very little, minimum effort, but do it every day.
Okay, minimum effort, but do it every day. Okay. So, what's your dream? Your dream for your own future? Where do you want to go from here?
I feel very kind of snobby to say this, but I think I'm already living my dream.
Okay.
So I'm very content. I think I could definitely be better, but that's why I'm working every day and towards that better future. But I am happy where I am right now. Like I said, I want to be better at all knowledge in food. You did ask me about whether there is a second book coming. I actually, no, not second book, but I'm actually planning to maybe write a script. I have some ideas that also kind of inspired by my time as a private chef and working in Hollywood. I think the book it's a non-fictional, everything is real, real stories in this book. But I also have a lot of scenarios in my mind that is purely fictional, but also inspired by my time as a private chef.
So you're going to make a movie?
I am trying to pitch or write down some ideas that could potentially be a pitch for a TV show.
Oh, a TV show, okay.
Yeah, because I think it needs multiple episodes.
Yes.
It has a lot of different stories, like the book has so many little sites, little short stories. So that's maybe the future.
Oh, wow. That sounds exciting. It's fun. You know, when you're exposed, even you as a food stylist, and you're exposed to the movie world, I mean, it gets in your head, like, you know, oh, maybe you can do something like that. And everything about the future, and even now, is all visual. You know, it's all visual. And what you're doing, food, has to be visual. That's how it's very tasty and tempting.
Plus, I study film.
Yeah.
That was my...
Finally, you make a big circle, you're really going to use it.
I hope so. I hope it all comes back full circle.
That is so great. Well, it's really, really, really been a lot of fun talking to you, Anna. And thanks to you and thanks to your book. Thank you. Good luck with everything. I'm so glad we finally met each other. I hope that every time when you come back, I don't know, maybe, you know, you go on my show again and share something new.
Sure. Right? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Anna.